Hey, look, they're finally together again as of today. And for those of you really paying attention, you'll notice something else in the room. I like Valencia, and I'm glad Celica finally gets her contrast to Alm's Resplendent. Enjoy the video, folks.
Let the lesson begin.
Hey guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is going to talk about Celica and her Resplendent upcoming skin. So, as with all of these Resplendent videos, I just want to preface it by telling you guys that treat this video like a unit analysis, and that the Resplendent stats shouldn't really dictate whether you invest or use these characters, but it's just kind of like a reflection of where that character has been or has come, because it tends to be like Generation 1 units, which I still believe most of them are pretty viable if you invest or use them properly. And that includes Celica. Celica is a good contrast to Alm's Resplendent, although I feel like Alm is pretty much wind-sweep fodder at this point, or a decent arena assault unit that kills Legendary Corrin. But nonetheless, Celica actually, there is something that I do appreciate about her, and that's the fact that she's probably the one and only best user of the Brazen Attack Speed 4 skill that we got a while back from Walt, and it appears they don't even want to finish that set of skills, but she definitely is the best user of that because of her innate synergy with Ragnarok. But there's definitely a cool playstyle you can do with Celica that basically no other or not no other, but very little like other characters can do. If there happens to be like a meta where you, or like skills that do more self-infliction damage at the beginning of a turn or anything like that, like in the nature of what Winter Bernadetta does, then stuff like Brave Lysithea and Celica will definitely be some of the best characters in the game. Like I could easily see that. So Celica is sleeper right now, but she could be really good. So I'm gonna start off this video by looking at the art. I'll give you my opinion on it. I'm not the biggest like judgment of art, but I can still appreciate it. And to start it off, honestly, this is like really nice, really fitting of Celica. This is probably one of the better Resplendent skins, and it makes me want to like maybe reflect on all the art we've gotten so far from Resplendents and go over them. Maybe that's in a future video, but this is definitely something I can appreciate. I'm actually not a big fan of Celica. I definitely prefer Alm, but the contrast between the two and the character development and synergy that they have in Shadows of Valencia is great, but Celica's standalone story and personality is a bit inconsistent, is where I'll leave it, but that's for another story. So yeah, this is her default skin. This is her attack animation, or rather attack art. It's, again, I do like it. I think it actually fits her perfectly. Remember that she is basically Mila and Sophia's queen, so light and nurturing, or nature, and it's just like everyone's blessed is very like you're not going to get like a dark skin out of Celica, so it makes a lot of sense. I appreciate all of them. They're not overdone, and they just fit her character the way I like it. So this is definitely one of the better ones that I've seen, and I think between Chrom and like Niles now, this is definitely up there in some of my favorites. But yeah, this is not what we're going to do. We're actually going to go jump into the builds, starting with her stats. So this is her with her Resplendent stats, folks. And as you can see, it's actually not that impressive. Like her stat spread is really outdated. She doesn't really shine in attack or speed, even though back in the day that might have been really good. But nowadays it's actually pretty bad by like the fact that she has only 34-35 with Resplendent bonus. But that isn't where she gets a lot of her value. A lot of her value actually comes from her weapon. So her weapon gives her 5 attack and 5 speed just flat without any sort of condition. So that definitely helps her catch up. She basically becomes 39-40, which is more respectable in today's game. And she has that additional effect where she takes recoil damage, pretty similar to what you'd expect from a Shadows of Valencia game, actually. But here's her the kicker, right? So her Refine has Brazen Attack Speed, which is great for a unit who basically wants to be a nuke, or maybe do some sort of recoil damage and get herself into those conditions. So Ragnarok and her stats end up being exactly what you want it to be for a nuker type playstyle. But there is some added synergy that I'm definitely going to talk about in this video that I really like between Ragnarok, the Brazens, and the sort of builds or ways you could use her that she feels very unique in, should you choose to do it. So, the first thing I want to talk about is, of course, the staple Cookie-Cutter stack brazen build, and this works totally fine from like a PvE cleanup perspective, right? You can literally throw this into let's say a team where maybe you don't have very good cleanup, maybe your tank is just going to tank some stuff, and then she goes and just basically with a dancer goes and cleans up the rest of the team. That effectively works. Or a team that doesn't have much danger area and you can go in and do the exact same thing. She puts herself into desperation range pretty easily. In an Astra as well, if you run into any Duma teams, you can actually just like ardent sacrifice yourself while you're setting up for like 2 or 3 turns, depending on the amount of mythics you have, and actually put yourself in the brazen desperation range pretty easily and go from there, which is really cool for Celica. Like, technically a few other units could do this, but Celica does it pretty well, so I can definitely appreciate her for that. Now, the next thing I want to actually mention that I feel is also fairly unique to Celica is a variation of this build that involves Brash Assault. So there aren't that many ways for heroes in this game to get auto follow-ups, but Brash Assault is one of them that I feel isn't really mentioned quite a bit because it has quite a few conditions that make it pretty impractical. But Celica actually can meet these conditions pretty easily. So she can set up Ardent Sacrifice by getting hit by Duma's recoil. Her weapon puts her in that range. And there's a lot of elements that can really do it. Mind you, I haven't listed any Fury or Fury 4 builds, and those work really well too. But as I said, just stacking the attack and speed from Brazen just does a fine job anyways. The thing is, with Brash Assault combined with Desperation into like a lot of teams that might be like, let's say, far saves or just characters who have distant counter on front lines or just attack back in general, Desperation Brash Assault is amazing in this regard because she can essentially auto follow up and kill those units before they get a chance to attack back into Celica, and one hit from her may not usually be enough, but combining the Desperation and Brash Assault, you will most likely get those kills off. So that sort of setup is very unique to Celica, and I don't feel can really be compared by many others in the game. And that's why I'm still, like, I feel like this is really cool from her. Brave Lysithea also kind of can do stuff like this, especially since she has no follow-up and Desperation. And of course with Ardent Sacrifice, she can kind of also do this. But Celica's older and more people may have Celica, and definitely is a comparable option here that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, of course. Next up is a arena build. So if you've been, Celica is pretty popular. I'd expect a few people to actually have this as an option. Our dual infantry, or just dual infantries in general, I'm always an advocate of giving those to either the Askers, so you have consistent, strong scoring bonus units, or range units. So Celica falls under this category. So if you do want to, let's say, push towards a +10 Celica, she's going to be a good candidate of our dual infantry 4. Give her no follow-up, and in Fire Season, for example, she's actually going to have a pretty easy time of taking care of most threats. Most threats. But there isn't really anything that makes her stand out compared to other good Red Tome infantries. She's just a pretty strong nuke, or character who just has a lot of attack and speed. There are definitely other good options, considering there's like a billion gimmicky Red Tomes, such as Solon, Iago, Veld, whatever. The list goes on, right? So this can work, but she's not going to be standing out too much in this regard. Finally, there is the defense build, which I think she does okay if you consider that she has recoil damage. So if you combine that with like Fury 4, Fury 3, whatever you can afford here, you can actually set up a lot of recoil where she can set up other Wings of Mercy units to jump in and potentially create a snowball. She can do this well because, again, her weapon has that recoil. So 11 damage, potentially up to 13 off of Ragnarok and Fury. You take 2 combats, and Celica is going to be pretty close to setting up other units in some regard, maybe. Or you use her in a team comp that has like a lightning trap that you want your opponent to maybe trigger, or they're using Bolt Tower and then they get trapped into Celica, you know, having her weapon activated. You could even use something like Desperation, or again, Brash Assault. Those are all super strong considerations to think about, but this is just a sample, and of course Windsweep is very good in the current game. So yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for Celica in this video. I'm not really going to go through sims in this one because I don't think everyone has or is willing to use Celica. She's not going to be as common as a couple other Resplendents, but I do think she has a place if you choose to use her. And it's a little bit more unique than your typical nuker. The only one that really compares to her is definitely Brave Lysithea. With that being said, that's going to be it from me, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said, I'm actually going to be covering the calendar tomorrow, and I'm still working on footage and a good guide for both Pathfinder, somewhat budget, and enhancing my own defense team in a way that I feel comfortable with not. When I have all of that combined, hopefully by the end of this week, you guys will get my opinion and suggestions on what you should do. The last thing I want to do is recommend bad advice. I don't want to hype up things that aren't necessarily true. Like, I don't strongly believe that 2 knots is the way to go yet. I don't strongly believe that you maybe want to use a certain team composition that not absolutely makes your defense amazing with. I'm going to actually play it out, get some data on my replays, get some feedback, and then once all that is collected, you guys will get the result of that with solid suggestions or advice to make sure that your defense works with not. Sparking, yes. How to use it, not sure 100% yet, but once I do, probably within the week, you guys will know about it. The replays at the end of the week will definitely be interesting. All right, with that tangent done, thank you for watching. Love you all. Thumbs up, smash it, sub if you haven't. Think about supporting the channel if you want to see this content keep going. If you don't, then I will sadly disappear from the internet one day, or the world, who knows. I'm kidding. I love you all. See you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.